Hello, my name is Hannah and I'm a teacher from Twinkl. Thanks for joining me for daily reading. This is the fifth in a series of 5 videos and we've been reading Sabryna and the River Spirit. If you haven't been reading along with us, it's best to go back and choose one of the videos from the start of the story. Today we're going to be reading chapter 4. It's a shorter chapter than the ones have been so far, and we're going to be looking at understanding the main idea from more than one paragraph. Let's get reading. 4. Clutching her basket of laundry, Sabryna walked down to the river. She got out her washboard and paddle, then knelt to wash a basket of clothes with a bar of lye soap. The river ran deep, clear and fast. The sun gleamed on the green-coated mountains. Birds flocked in the trees and fish splashed in the stream. Things had changed since the floods that had swept the land 1 year ago. Since then, Sabryna had journeyed up and down the river, bringing old ideas and new, and reminding everyone of the consequences if they didn't change their ways. Sabryna had been there when the farmers had dug irrigation canals and had started to develop natural fertilizers. She had been there when the factory owners had found ways to harvest water and wind power for their new factories instead of alchemical fuels. She had been there when the fisherfolk had re-equipped their motorized boats with sails and oars, and built fences and walls around protected parts of the river so that the fish had a chance to thrive. She had been there in the city as they had begun to change their habits. Instead of throwing their waste into the river, people were starting to reuse what they could. The bright lights and puffs of smoke that wowed the crowds were replaced with amusements that didn't hurt nature: music and art, swimming contests and rowing tournaments. Soon, visitors were arriving to see the natural beauty of the place and bathe in the clean water. Now that we've read some of this chapter, let's talk about our reading skill for today. On this page, there are 3 paragraphs which start in the same way. Can you find them? Take a few moments to see if you can find the 3 paragraphs I've spotted that have a very similar beginning. I'm looking at the 3 paragraphs at the bottom of page 27. These 3. They all start with, Sabryna had been there. She had been there. She had been there. She had been there. Why do you think the author has done this? Read these paragraphs again, and then pause the video and think about what this does for the reader. Write down what you think. Well done. The author has started these paragraphs in a similar way to show that they are linked. With these 3 paragraphs, the author is trying to get across an idea, but has split it into 3. When Sabryna travelled down the river, she visited 3 main places: her village, the town where the factories and fishing boats were, and the city by the sea. The author is now showing how each of these 3 places has changed in the last year. The repetition of Sabryna had been there, Sabryna had been there, reminds us of Sabryna's journey down the river and shows us how each of these 3 places that we remember has changed. It also shows us how big a role Sabryna had to play in these changes and how important she was to the people in the last year. Let's keep reading. Things had changed for Sabryna's family too. No matter how long they scrubbed or what soap they used, the other laundresses in the village could never get clothes as clean and bright as Sabryna. With the extra money that this brought, Sabryna kept her family well fed, and they could finally afford to improve their cottage and repaint the figures on their shrine. Sabryna couldn't help but believe that Dia was watching over her, and with every passing day, more birds flew over the river and more fish swam through the reeds. Sabryna watched the white soap bubbles float away. She imagined them passing the village and the town and the city, travelling all the way to the sea. "Thank you, dear, for blessing us," she muttered, as she wrung out her laundry and listened to the happy cheep cheep of a beetling. That's the end of our story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Before we go, I'd like you to have a look at this chapter again. What do you think the main purpose of this chapter is? What is the main idea? Pause the video now and write down what you think the author was trying to tell us in this chapter. Well done. I think the author has written Chapter 4 with the main purpose of showing us how things have changed in the last year. You might have said that the chapter is separated into the areas of land with a paragraph for how each one has changed. It also shows how things have changed for Sabryna and her family, which the reader really wants to know about because she's our hero. On page 28, Sabryna's situation is compared with her life in Chapter 1, and we get the impression that Dia is grateful for Sabryna's help. There are more questions and activities that you can do after the video. Just click the link in the description to download the activity pack again. See you next time.